Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's April 23rd. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and nice rally today. I guess everybody came back from vacation after taking most of Monday off, it seemed. A couple of different ways you could look at today. The brown channel I started with, and then once we broke above that, I got an equal distance, and you can see it worked out pretty well. But once you had these two swings here, you could draw that, and you can see there's the blue one actually comes into play as well. But I think you're better served really playing the brown and then the shorter term ones within it. So I did want to put it up here so you could see them both, though, because you might have played it a little differently. You could have played the blue one. I think they're both valid. Uh, but the brown was the one you could find from the very get-go, and it played out relatively well. The only bounce you would have had was here that you didn't get off the brown one, or you couldn't find off the brown channel, and I don't think you want to take that one anyway because you got this trend working down and you got multiple bars in there and you never really get a break and a new low, and it just kind of bounces unless you drew this trend line off these first two swings. It looks like it just kind of bounces in the middle of nowhere there, and that's why I ended up drawing this trend line. When that swing formed, you want to draw that just to see, prices don't just turn in the middle of nowhere. There's some reason it turned here, and so that's why I drew this trend line. You can see it comes into play, and then if you get to playing around with that same line, it looks like this is the midline right up through here, and then you get an equal distance, and it's perfect. So um, again, I think you're better off to play the brown one and the short term ones within it. Um, so the only one you might have picked up extra with the blue one was this. And that's the reason I look at all of them. To be honest with you, that's the reason I like to look at each one. If I think I see more than one trend, I'll draw them both and look. Uh, because sometimes it'll set up and you can see it playing off the blue. Let me back this out a little more just so you can see. You can see prices really up through here playing off the blue midline, both sides of it. Uh, but we come back and then we're playing off the brown one when it comes back to it right here. And you can see it play off the original brown midline. We get back in this channel and start playing it again. So um, really from this point on up here around 11 o'clock Central Standard Time, it was just kind of flat, not a lot going on. Early on was when you had to catch this trend, and you really don't get a good opportunity to catch this move here until here, and then you could have caught the tail end of it. But that's the way I saw it, so that's how I played it. And it's pretty obvious it was uphill from the very get-go. 7 o'clock kind of came right up through here on this move up, and you just kind of had to be patient. There is a failed second entry short here. Notice that there's a new low, first entry, second entry. It's technically not a failure, but it's the first break of this trend line, first close outside, and then there's really two swings down and a fairly bullish bar. That's why I marked that one possibly green. The problem is you still got a trend line working down. It's really only first entry counting off the high. So for that reason, I marked it green. But if you notice, it's a failed second entry short. Failure off it's a bounce off the EMA. Notice how it bounced off the close from yesterday as well. And then notice we opened up here and we came back and tested this, got a little double test, and off we go. So anyway, you may take that trade, but then you get a second entry long right here. Plus you get that little dip and the double test of this line right here, which is the close of yesterday. Closed on the opposite side of the EMA. So if we break above here, we're probably going to shoot on up, and of course that's what happens. So if you catch this one trade right out of the gate around 8:30 this morning, you can ride this pretty much all the way up. If you want, depending on how you want to play your runner. But you can definitely get a nice runner here and never look back off that one trade. And off it goes. And then we got a new high here. Pull back first entry, pull back second entry. And you might even look at this as a new low and then a dip. But more importantly, the trend is up and there's a second entry long there. And it's playing right off the midline, and we haven't gotten back up to the upper line yet. And there it goes. Goes straight to it, and then we work back to the midline. You get a second entry long. Notice that new high, first entry, pull back, and it actually breaks lower and turns and goes out the other side. I like going long there, but you could just wait for that one to close, and when it breaks higher, and go ahead and put your buy stop, so if it breaks higher, you're entered. And then actually, I marked this one green. It's real close. You could argue for it to be blue. It's a second entry. It's right off the midline. But we just came off the high of the channel, two-tiered channel there, if you're looking at the brown one, which is what you'd be looking at that point. But when it breaks lower here and turns back up, there's no doubt, go long right there. They've got people trapped at the short side. But this one, you could almost argue for it to be blue as well. And of course, you come back here again and get a failed second entry short. Notice that long first entry, second entry, and once again it breaks or gives you a nice bullish bar right off the EMA. When it breaks higher right there, I like going long. Then this was the one that kind of comes back, and we notice how we're fading away from that. So you kind of expect that we're going back to the trend line finally, and then it bounces. And so when it bounces right here in the middle of nowhere, you're wondering why it's bounced here, and that's when I drew the darker blue line. And really, I think it's a little risky to enter there. It ends up being a great trade, and you miss out on a big move. Notice that it just takes off. It never breaks lower here and just kind of goes higher, and no way you want to enter long or short there. Runs on up, and then you get a first entry short, a second entry short, it fails, and there is a second entry long, but we're right at the highs of this trend channel. You might have drawn this one, and you might be thinking, okay, well, there's a midline or a high right here, and so, but again, you don't want to be going long right into that. Of course, if it's a midline, you're okay, but you don't know that at the time. So it's kind of questionable, and it's an overshoot of the two-tiered brown channel, which is what we've been playing pretty much all the way up. So it's just really hard to justify entering there that far away from the EMA. But then finally we make a new high, first entry, and then we get a second entry long here. Back, actually what I did was I drew this trend line right here off of that and then drug it down here, and it's bouncing right in there. So when it broke higher here, it was actually this bar, but when it broke higher, I like going long on that second entry right there. And this gives you a legitimate chance to get back in this, to get in this trade as it moves on to the rest of the high on upwards here. And your target would be an equal distance on the brown. You can see I drew that right here. There's your brown. I measured it, pulled it up. There's your equal distance. And we actually go a little further than that. That turns out the blue is the perfect equal distance. And then of course we come back, first entry, pull back. There's a second entry long right there, but this is really your signal bar. This is kind of an inside bar, so I'm not crazy about that one. But it comes back here and bounces again and gives you a nice bullish bar. I like entering there. You barely get enough to get out on that one, and then it turns back down. We're just kind of going sideways here. You finally get that little failed break lower. Not a great signal bar on my chart, but you still might consider that trade, and your signal bar might be a little better. I marked it green. I'm not crazy about that signal bar, but you do see that little trend, and we get a close outside and a new low. But we're right back to this, which is the midline of the bigger piece of it. At first, this was our trend channel, and this was our midline, but now that we went the equal distance, this becomes a midline. And you're going long right into that. So it's a little bit suspect. But at the time, this channel is really the main play here, and that's a failed break lower. And the odds are you're going to shoot back up. And so you just need, really what you need here is a good signal bar, and mine's average. It's kind of a middle of the road bar, so I marked it green, but it's a real tempting trade. And if you had a good signal bar there, that's the trade you're looking for to try to catch this thing on a failed break, at least moving back to here, and it may take on off again. So what does it do? It comes back to the highs of this range, and it tries to get through there several times, and that takes us into the 2 o'clock hour. So pretty good day. You were a little limited here for a while. This thing, just like I said, unless you saw this blue channel somehow earlier, which I think it's a little difficult to find, you really couldn't get it confirmed until here. If you drew it off these first two and saw it bounce here, you might take it, but I still don't think you've got enough information. I want to see a little more confirmation, and you really couldn't get that until on up here. And so I just think that leaves this move here as being real questionable. So, but if you drew that trend line and you saw that bounce, you may take that. So, I wish I could. I got to take time to figure out how to get rid of them pop-ups. They just come constantly, and it's something to do with my Yahoo Mail, I think. But I got to figure out how to get rid of that. But anyway, that's what I saw today. Not a lot of trades, but most of them are relatively straightforward. It's mostly all uphill. I don't see any shorts here. For a little while, it looked like we may work sideways here, and you might be able to get to trade this both ways, but it really never materializes. When you're consistently above the EMA and it's pointing up, you just want to look for longs. You don't want to be looking for shorts during that period. So you don't see any shorts here today. Even once you've trended this strongly and you're going sideways here, unless you get a really good setup here, I wouldn't even take a short. And I don't see anything there I like. You finally get a nice bearish bar here, but it's right back into the lows. So I don't think you want to take that either. But anyway, that's what I saw today. Hope you had a good day. Hope you took advantage of the trend, and that you weren't trying to sell all the way up. And when you see this, just start buying. Especially once it gets really strong. When you see all these little bars like that with lots of stems, they just very small corrections. I mean, that's the biggest correction of the afternoon, really from just before 10 o'clock until just before 11 for a whole hour. And that's not much of a correction. That's the biggest correction. And then once again, we take on off again until we finally get a bigger correction here. And so when you see all these little bars that just keep going higher with very shallow corrections and lots of stems and dojis, that's a strong trend. Doesn't look like it, other than the fact that it's pointing straight up almost, but that is a strong trend. And you can see the EMA switch gears here, and it's pointing straight up, and prices are consistently above it until right in here. So that's a nice strong trend today. And we're above 2,900. I mean, we moved all the way to 2,940 today. I mean, at this rate, we'll be at 3,000 for long. It looks like this market just keeps trudging on. So don't argue with it. Wherever it goes, that's where we're going. We want to go where it goes. If that's up, that's great. If that's down, doesn't matter. We're going where it goes. So don't fight it. Always stay with the trend, especially when you get a trend day like this. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Hope you had a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.